Have you ever found a dead shrimp in your tank? Or worse, several from your colony? Even though everything looked fine? Your water tests are normal, the tank's been running, you didn't change anything. Here's the truth. Shrimp rarely die from just one mistake. They die when hidden problems stack up quietly until the tank reaches a tipping point. In this video, I'm going to break down the real reasons shrimp die, the danger signs most people miss, and what to fix before more are lost. Let's dive right in. New tank syndrome is one of the most common reasons shrimp die, especially for new shrimp keepers. When you first set up an aquarium, the biological filter hasn't matured yet. The nitrogen cycle isn't fully established, which means waste can't be processed properly. Ammonia from shrimp or fish waste, uneaten food, and decaying organic matter begins to build up, followed by nitrite. Here's the problem. Your tank can look crystal clear and still be toxic. You might test your water and see low but non-zero ammonia or nitrite and think, that doesn't seem that bad. But for shrimp, even trace amounts are unsafe. Levels that fish might tolerate can cause serious stress, failed molts, weakened immune systems, and eventually death in shrimp. This is why shrimp often die in brand new tanks. And there's another factor many people don't realize at first. New aquariums also lack biofilm. Shrimp rely heavily on biofilm, which is an invisible layer of microorganisms, bacteria, algae, and organic compounds that naturally forms on surfaces like glass, substrate, plants, and decor. Biofilm isn't just a bonus food source, it plays a major role in digestion, nutrition, and overall shrimp health. In a brand new tank, that biofilm simply hasn't had time to develop yet. So even if water parameters look almost ready, the tank itself may not be. To prevent new tank syndrome from killing your shrimp, give your aquarium time to fully cycle, usually around 3 to 4 weeks. At the end of this period, test your water and make sure ammonia and nitrite consistently read 0 before adding shrimp. If you want to speed things up slightly, you can take a sponge from an established filter and gently squeeze it into your new tank or near the filter intake. This introduces beneficial bacteria and helps jumpstart biofilm growth. You can also ghost feed once a week by adding a very small amount of powdered food. As it breaks down, it provides an ammonia source that helps establish the nitrogen cycle. By giving your tank time to mature, beneficial bacteria and biofilm can establish across all surfaces. That stability, more than anything else, is what dramatically improves shrimp survival in new tanks. Old tank syndrome is another common reason shrimp die, and this one is especially tricky because it happens in tanks that seem stable. Unlike new tank syndrome, nothing crashes overnight. Over time, waste slowly builds up in older aquariums if regular maintenance isn't kept up. As organic material accumulates, the water can gradually become more acidic and less stable, even if the tank still looks clean. When this happens, the aquarium loses its ability to buffer changes and maintain consistency. At the same time, the biological filter can slowly lose efficiency. Filter media becomes clogged, oxygen flow through the media drops, and beneficial bacteria begin to decline as conditions shift. When the filter can no longer keep up with waste production, harmful compounds can start to appear, even in tanks that have been running for months or years. Colony size also plays a big role here. As your shrimp population grows, so does waste production. More shrimp means more feeding, more waste, and more organic debris from molts. If filtration and maintenance don't scale with the colony, the system can quietly become overwhelmed. This is why losses sometimes begin in large, established shrimp colonies without any obvious trigger. There's another hidden risk that can develop in older or heavily stocked tanks: the substrate itself. In deep or compacted substrate, waste trapped in low oxygen areas can begin breaking down anaerobically. This process produces hydrogen sulfide gas, which smells like rotten eggs and is extremely toxic to shrimp. If these pockets are disturbed suddenly, during aggressive gravel cleaning, plant removal, or hardscape rearranging, that gas can be released into the water and cause rapid, unexplained deaths. This is one of the reasons shrimp losses sometimes occur immediately after a major tank cleaning. What makes old tank syndrome so difficult to spot is that the tank often still looks healthy. The water may be clear, plants may still be growing, fish may appear unaffected, and yet shrimp begin dying unexpectedly. Shrimp are far more sensitive to these slow, long-term changes. Constant instability puts ongoing stress on their bodies, increasing the risk of molting problems, weakened immune systems, and shortened lifespans. To prevent old tank syndrome, consistency matters more than anything else. Perform regular water changes to remove accumulated waste and keep conditions stable. Pay attention to slow trends like TDS creeping up, nitrates gradually rising, or pH slowly dropping instead of waiting for something dramatic to happen. Maintain filters properly by gently rinsing media in dechlorinated tank water to remove debris while preserving beneficial bacteria. For most shrimp keepers, this is the safest approach. In some cases, experienced aquarists may briefly rinse filter media under cold tap water if their tap water contains little to no chlorine. Warm or hot water should never be used, as it can kill beneficial bacteria and potentially force the tank to cycle again. Avoid aggressive deep cleaning of the substrate. Never stir deep or compacted substrate all at once. Instead, gravel vac small sections over time, allowing oxygenated water to safely neutralize any minor releases. Using rooted plants can also help reduce anaerobic buildup, as plant roots naturally oxygenate the substrate and disrupt low oxygen pockets. As your colony grows, adjust feeding, filtration, and water change frequency so the system keeps pace with increased waste production. And if you suspect old tank syndrome, make corrections gradually. Sudden large water changes can shock shrimp. Stabilization should always happen slowly, using controlled adjustments over time. Toxins and contaminants are a major cause of sudden shrimp deaths, especially in tanks that were otherwise stable. Shrimp are incredibly sensitive to chemicals that may seem harmless to us, or even to fish. Tiny amounts of toxins entering an aquarium can cause rapid stress, failed molts, paralysis, or death, often with little warning. In many cases, shrimp die quickly, while fish appear unaffected, which makes the cause easy to overlook. One of the most common sources is tap water. Many water supplies contain chlorine or chloramine. These are safe for people, but extremely toxic to shrimp. Untreated tap water added during water changes or top-offs can be deadly. Heavy metals, especially copper, are another major threat. Copper can enter aquariums through tap water, old plumbing, medications, fertilizers, algae treatments, or food not designed for invertebrates. Shrimp absorb copper into their bodies, where it accumulates over time and interferes with vital biological processes, potentially causing death. Natural materials can also be a hidden source of contamination, and this one catches many shrimp keepers off guard. Wood, leaves, seed pods, and botanicals collected around your home or outdoors can absorb pollutants from their surroundings. Items gathered near roads, parking lots, or driveways are particularly risky, as they may be contaminated with car exhaust residue, oil, brake dust, road salt, or surface runoff. Even materials collected from places that appear clean, such as forests, parks, or trails, can still carry pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, or heavy materials from agricultural runoff or airborne pollution. Once submerged, these contaminants can slowly leach into the aquarium water, exposing shrimp to toxins over time. Because shrimp are so sensitive, even very small amounts of these pollutants can cause stress, failed molts, paralysis, or sudden deaths. In many cases, the effects don't appear immediately, which makes the source of the problem difficult to trace. Household chemicals are another hidden danger. Soap residue on hands or tools, cleaning sprays, air fresheners, insecticides, perfumes, and even some fertilizers used near the tank can contaminate the water. Shrimp are vulnerable to both direct contact and airborne contaminants. And here's the frustrating part. These toxins don't always show up on standard water tests. A tank can test perfect and still be toxic to shrimp. To reduce the risk, always use a quality water conditioner when adding tap water to neutralize chlorine and chloramine and to bind heavy metals. Avoid medications, algae treatments, or fertilizers that contain copper unless they're clearly labeled shrimp safe. If you use natural wood or botanicals, source them carefully and prepare them properly. Thoroughly clean, boil, or soak them for an extended period before adding them to the tank. If collecting locally, avoid areas near roads, parking lots, agricultural fields, lawns, or industrial zones where exposure to chemicals and runoff is more likely. Choose remote, undisturbed areas whenever possible. Wash your hands thoroughly before working in your aquarium and ensure there's no soap residue. Rinse tools and equipment well before use. Keep household cleaners, sprays, insecticides, and fragrances far away from the tank, and avoid spraying anything in the same room as your aquarium. If shrimp suddenly begin acting abnormally, such as frantic swimming, lethargy, twitching, or gathering near the surface, chemical contamination may be the cause. In these situations, perform an emergency water change of around 40 to 50% to dilute toxins quickly. In severe cases, this can be repeated the following day if shrimp are still showing signs of distress, as long as the new water is fully dechlorinated and closely matched in temperature and parameters. Adding fresh, activated carbon for 1 to 3 days after the water change can also help remove lingering contaminants. Once shrimp behavior returns to normal, the carbon can be removed. Bad batches and shipping stress are a very common reason shrimp die shortly after purchase, even when your tank is well maintained. Shrimp are often shipped long distances in small bags with limited water, limited oxygen, and no access to food. During transport, waste builds up, oxygen levels drop, and temperatures can fluctuate. By the time shrimp arrive, they may already be exhausted or severely stressed. In some cases, shrimp are shipped too young or before they fully recovered from a recent molt. Molting is extremely energy intensive, and shrimp shipped during or shortly after a molt are far more vulnerable to stress and osmotic shock. That's why entire groups of shrimp sometimes decline within the first few days. These losses are often blamed on water parameters, when in reality the shrimp arrived compromised. Shipping stress also makes shrimp far more sensitive to small parameter differences that healthy shrimp would normally tolerate. Minor shifts in temperature, TDS, or pH can become fatal when shrimp are already worn down. This is what people usually mean when they refer to a bad batch. To reduce losses, buy shrimp from reputable breeders or sellers who ship healthy, well-conditioned stock. When possible, choose juvenile shrimp rather than fully grown adults, as juveniles usually adapt more easily and handle shipping stress better. Avoid shipping during extreme weather whenever possible. When your shrimp arrive, acclimate them slowly using a drip acclimation method. If you already use a method that works well for you, consistency matters more than the method itself. Turn off aquarium lights during and after acclimation to reduce stress, and avoid feeding for the first 24 hours. Introduce new shrimp only into mature, stable tanks with plenty of hiding places and established biofilm. And if you experience repeated losses from a new group despite stable conditions, don't rush to add more shrimp. Pause, reassess the source, and make adjustments before restocking. Because sometimes it's not your tank, it's the condition the shrimp arrived in. Improper acclimation and osmotic shock are a common reason shrimp die shortly after being added to a new tank. Shrimp are extremely sensitive to rapid changes in their environment. Sudden differences in temperature, pH, hardness, or total dissolved solids, or TDS, can overwhelm their ability to regulate internal fluids. This type of stress is known as osmotic shock, and it can cause shrimp to become lethargic, lose balance, experience molting problems, or die within hours or days of introduction. Here's what's happening inside the shrimp. Shrimp constantly regulate the balance of water and minerals inside their bodies. When they're suddenly moved into water with very different temperature or mineral content, water rushes in and out of their cells faster than their bodies can adjust. This internal stress damages tissues, disrupts organ function, and interferes with molting, even if the shrimp initially appear fine. This is why osmotic shock is so misleading. It most often happens when shrimp are added directly from the bag into the tank or when acclimation is rushed. Shrimp are frequently shipped in softer, lower TDS water, so placing them straight into harder or higher TDS aquarium water can be fatal, even if the tank itself is stable. There's another important factor during shipping that many people don't realize. When shrimp are shipped for long periods, waste and respiration cause ammonia to build up in the bag water. While the bag remains sealed, carbon dioxide keeps the pH lower, which keeps much of that ammonia in a less toxic form. Once the bag is opened and oxygen enters, pH can rise and convert more of that ammonium into toxic ammonia. This means shrimp can be exposed to dangerous ammonia levels during acclimation itself. To reduce this risk, transfer the shrimp and bag water into a clean container and add an ammonia detoxifying water conditioner before starting drip acclimation or whichever acclimation method you use. This keeps ammonia in a less harmful form while new tank water is slowly introduced. This step is especially useful for long-distance shipments or acclimations that last longer than about an hour. Osmotic shock can also occur during water changes. Large or poorly matched water changes can create sudden differences in temperature, TDS, GH, or pH. Shrimp may survive the change itself, but die days later from internal stress that weakens their immune system or disrupts the molting process. This delay is what makes acclimation-related losses so difficult to trace. To prevent osmotic shock, acclimate shrimp slowly during a drip acclimation method for about 1 to 3 hours rather than adding them directly to the tank. Personally, I drip acclimate my shrimp for around 3 hours. Some keepers do have success with faster methods, particularly when buying repeatedly from the same local source. Extra caution, however, is strongly recommended when shrimp are shipped long distances or purchased from a new seller. In these cases, drip acclimation dramatically reduces risk. During acclimation, turn off aquarium lights and keep them off for several hours afterward. Bright lighting can trigger panic behavior at a time when shrimp are already physiologically stressed. Lower light levels help shrimp remain calm and settle in more gradually. It's also best to avoid feeding for the first 24 hours. Newly acclimated shrimp are focused on adjusting to their new environment, and uneaten food can quickly impact water quality. Waiting a day allows shrimp to stabilize, graze naturally on biofilm, and reduces additional stress. Water changes are essential for shrimp health, but when they're done improperly, they can also become a major source of stress and loss. Shrimp thrive on stability. Large, sudden, or inconsistent water changes can cause rapid shifts in temperature, pH, hardness, or total dissolved solids, or TDS. Even when the new water is clean, these sudden changes can overwhelm a shrimp's ability to adjust, leading to stress, failed molts, or death. This often happens when water changes are infrequent but very large, especially after cloudy water, rising nitrates, or algae growth. While the intention is good, aggressive corrections are often more dangerous than the original issue. Shrimp tolerate slightly imperfect but stable conditions far better than rapid swings. And it's not just large water changes. Parameter swings can also happen when replacement water is prepared differently each time. Seasonal changes in tap water, inconsistent remineralization, or poorly matched temperatures can all introduce instability, even when water changes are relatively small. Evaporation top-offs can also cause problems. When water evaporates, minerals are left behind. Replacing evaporated water with tap water or remineralized water instead of pure water increases mineral concentration and TDS. Over time, this creates ongoing stress that's easy to miss. Losses related to water changes are often delayed. Shrimp may survive the change itself, but die days later from internal stress, immune suppression, or molting failure, which makes the true cause difficult to identify. To reduce risk, perform small, regular water changes instead of large, infrequent ones. For most shrimp tanks, changes of around 10 to 20% weekly or bi-weekly are far safer than occasional large water changes unless you're dealing with an emergency. Closely match the temperature of replacement water to the aquarium whenever possible. If there's a slight difference, it's generally safer for new water to be slightly cooler rather than warmer. In nature, incoming water, like rainwater, is usually cooler, and aquatic life is far better adapted to gentle cooling than sudden warming. If you use RO water, consistency is critical. Prepare replacement water the same way each time during remineralization. Changing mineral brands, eyeballing measurements, or frequently adjusting targets introduces repeated swings that add up over time. When topping off evaporated water, pure RO or distilled water is the safest option. It replaces lost water without adding minerals and helps prevent gradual TDS buildup. And when a correction is needed, slow and steady wins. Improve conditions gradually over several days rather than trying to fix everything at once. TDS drift is a slow, often invisible cause of shrimp deaths that can go unnoticed for months. TDS, or total dissolved solids, represents the combined concentration of minerals and other dissolved substances in the water. Shrimp can tolerate a range of TDS values, but they struggle when those values slowly move in one direction over time without being corrected. TDS isn't just minerals added during remineralization. It includes everything dissolved in the water, uneaten food as it breaks down, waste, decaying plant matter, botanicals releasing compounds, fertilizers, and trace residues from additives or treatments. This is how TDS drift develops. It most commonly occurs when evaporated water is topped off with tap water or remineralized water instead of pure water. As water evaporates, minerals remain behind. Replacing that lost water with mineral-containing water causes TDS to rise gradually week after week, even when pH, GH, and KH still remain stable. This slow increase creates chronic osmotic stress. Shrimp must constantly regulate the balance of water and minerals inside their bodies. Prolonged exposure to rising TDS forces them to work harder just to maintain internal balance. Over time, this stress weakens shrimp, disrupts molting, reduces breeding success, and shortens lifespan. TDS drift rarely causes immediate deaths. Shrimp may survive for weeks or even months while slowly declining. Losses often occur during molting or after minor stressors that healthy shrimp would normally tolerate, making the true cause easy to miss. TDS drift can also happen when water changes are inconsistent. Using different tap water sources, changing remineralization habits, or frequently adjusting targets without a clear baseline can allow TDS to slowly wander away from the shrimp's preferred range. To prevent TDS drift, always top off evaporated water with pure RO or distilled water, not tap or remineralized water. This replaces lost water without adding minerals. Use a TDS meter to track trends over time rather than relying on single readings. A slow, steady rise is often more important than the exact number itself. When performing water changes, aim to bring the tank back close to a known baseline instead of chasing small day-to-day adjustments. If you use RO water, remineralize consistently using the same product and method each time to maintain stable mineral balance. And if TDS has already crept higher than intended, lower it gradually through controlled water changes rather than sudden corrections, allowing shrimp time to adjust safely. Overfeeding is one of the most common and most preventable reasons aquarium shrimp die. It's also one of the easiest mistakes to make. Shrimp eat slowly and graze constantly. When too much food is added, uneaten portions settle into the substrate, plants, and decor, where they begin to break down. As this excess food decomposes, it releases ammonia and fuels bacterial growth, which can quickly degrade water quality. This becomes especially dangerous in shrimp tanks. Most shrimp setups use gentle filtration and low water movement. That allows waste and harmful compounds to build up around feeding areas, creating pockets of poor water quality. Even if overall water tests look acceptable, shrimp may still be sitting in conditions that cause ongoing stress. Overfeeding can also trigger pest outbreaks, including planaria and hydra. These organisms thrive on excess food and organic waste. While they don't always kill adult shrimp directly, they can prey on baby shrimp, irritate adults, and further destabilize the tank. Another common issue is overfeeding out of concern. New shrimp keepers often assume hidden or inactive shrimp are hungry, especially right after adding them to a tank. In reality, shrimp rely heavily on biofilm and natural grazing. In many cases, adding extra food does more harm than good. Overfeeding rarely causes immediate deaths. Instead, it creates a slow decline in water quality that leads to chronic stress, molting problems, weakened immune systems, and losses that appear sudden or unexplained. To prevent deaths from overfeeding, feed very small amounts, only what your shrimp can reasonably consume within 1 to 2 hours. If any food is still present after 24 hours, remove it, especially in tanks with small colonies. In established tanks with healthy biofilm, it's often better to feed less frequently rather than every day. Colony size matters here. Small shrimp colonies require very little supplemental food, while larger colonies may need more frequent feeding, but portions should always remain small. Using feeding dishes or designated feeding areas can help keep food contained and make it easier to judge how much food is actually being eaten. It's also best to avoid feeding immediately after adding new shrimp. Give them time to settle in and graze naturally before introducing supplemental food. And finally, watch your shrimp, not just the food. Healthy shrimp that are actively grazing usually don't need more feeding. Signs of overfeeding include uneaten food sitting in the tank for hours, food breaking apart and clouding the water, foul or sour smells, and a sudden increase in pests like planaria or hydra. If you notice any of these signs, reduce feeding frequency or portion size and allow the tank to stabilize. Molting failures are one of the most misunderstood reasons shrimp die. Shrimp must shed their exoskeleton to grow, and this process is extremely sensitive to water stability and mineral balance. When conditions are right, a molt happens quickly and successfully. When conditions are off, molting can fail, and failed molts are often fatal. One of the most well-known signs of a failed molt is the white ring of death. This occurs when the old shell splits completely around the body instead of opening cleanly along the back. The shrimp becomes trapped between two shell segments and is unable to fully escape. In many cases, the shrimp dies shortly afterward. But not all molting failures look like this. Some shrimp fail internally and die hours or even days later without ever showing a visible white ring. These deaths are often mistaken for random losses, even though the underlying cause is still molting related. Molting problems are rarely caused by a single factor. They usually result from long-term instability, such as fluctuating TDS, inconsistent water changes, improper GH or mineral balance, or chronic stress. Even small but repeated changes can weaken a shrimp's ability to complete a successful molt. Both too little and too much mineral content can cause problems. Low GH can lead to soft shells that collapse during molting, while excessively high or imbalanced mineral levels can make shells too rigid to shed properly. Sudden changes are especially dangerous during the pre-molt and molting stages when shrimp are most vulnerable. Stress also plays a major role. Shrimp exposed to poor water quality, overcrowding, or constant disturbance are more likely to experience failed molts. Without adequate hiding places, molting shrimp may panic or be harassed, which increases the chance of failure. Like many other shrimp issues, molting-related deaths are often delayed. A shrimp may appear normal before a molt, struggle during the process, and die later, making the connection to water stability easy to miss. To prevent molting issues, stability matters more than anything else. Maintain consistent water parameters, especially GH, KH, and TDS, and avoid sudden changes whenever possible. Use consistent remineralization practices so mineral balance stays predictable over time. Perform small, regular water changes instead of large corrective ones, particularly if molting problems have already been observed. Provide a varied diet that includes high-quality shrimp food, natural grazing surfaces, and balanced mineral sources rather than relying on supplements alone. And make sure shrimp have plenty of hiding places, such as moss, leaf litter, or hardscape, so they can molt without disturbance. If molting problems are frequent, resist the urge to chase quick fixes. Long-term stability is the single most important factor for successful molts. Speaking of successful molts, shrimp need the right building blocks to form a strong, reliable exoskeleton every time they molt. That's why I created my own line of premium shrimp foods to help give shrimp the same variety they naturally seek out in the wild. The goal is straightforward: support steady growth, successful molts, and long-term vitality. When nutrition is right, shrimp stay active, colorful, and resilient. Let's start with the staples, foods you can feed once or even multiple times each week. Fuse is a carefully balanced fusion of land and sea ingredients. It combines proteins like salmon, krill, and shrimp with algae, yeast, and essential vitamins. This mix provides omega-3s for color, antioxidants for immune support, and gut-friendly nutrients that support digestion and steady growth. Fuse also includes a small scoop so feeding stays consistent and controlled. To balance that, there's Vita. While Fuse leans toward protein, Vita is entirely plant-based. It's made from carrot, spinach, kale, beetroot, pumpkin, and sweet potato. Rich in fiber, minerals, and antioxidants, Vita supports healthy molts, natural coloration, and long-term vitality without fillers or preservatives. Like Fuse, it comes with its own scoop, making portion control simple. Used together, Fuse and Vita create a balanced feeding routine that mirrors what shrimp instinctively look for in nature. Now for the complementary foods, ideal as weekly additions or occasional treats. Snow is my snowflake-style food made from soybean hull pellets. When it hits the water, it expands into a soft layer that shrimp can graze on for days. As it slowly breaks down, it fuels biofilm growth, one of the most important natural food sources for shrimp. Snow is high in fiber, safe to leave in the tank long term, and works well as a vacation food. And finally, there's Buzz, pure natural bee pollen granules. Buzz is packed with protein, amino acids, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Even a small weekly feeding can noticeably boost growth, color, energy, and overall health. If you want to try them for yourself, you can pick up any of these foods individually, grab the signature 4-pack, or start with the sample pack. You'll get 10% off with promo code FOREVER10, and if you join the Skittle Squad on Patreon, you'll receive even larger discounts no matter which tier you join. I'll leave links for you in the description and pinned comment below. Together, these 4 foods make shrimp feeding easy and stress-free while giving your shrimp the balance you're built for. And this is just the beginning. I'll be adding more unique foods down the line. Incorrect water parameters are a common reason shrimp struggle or die, even in tanks that appear stable and well-maintained. Not all shrimp have the same requirements. Different species need specific ranges for pH, GH, KH, and TDS, and keeping shrimp outside of those ranges creates constant background stress. Shrimp may survive for a while in less than ideal conditions, but long-term exposure increases the risk of failed molts, poor breeding, weakened immune systems, and shortened lifespans. This issue is especially common when shrimp species with different needs are kept together. Some keepers mix Neocaridina and Caridina shrimp in middle ground tap water parameters. In most cases, this setup favors Neocaridina. Caridina may survive, but they often struggle to thrive or breed reliably. Neocaridina generally prefer moderately hard, neutral to slightly alkaline water, while Caridina typically requires soft, slightly acidic water with very low KH. Trying to compromise between these requirements often results in parameters that aren't ideal for either species. What makes this difficult to catch is the tank can still look healthy. Water tests may show consistent readings, plants may grow well, fish may appear unaffected, All of this can create the impression that conditions are fine, even when they're placing constant stress on shrimp. Shrimp are far less forgiving than fish. Instead of crashing suddenly, they often decline slowly. Breeding may stop, baby shrimp may fail to survive, adults may die sporadically during molts. These losses are often blamed on random causes when the underlying issue is simply mismatched water chemistry. To prevent problems related to improper parameters, research the specific requirements of the shrimp species you plan to keep before setting up the tank. Use reliable test kits to monitor pH, GH, KH, and TDS regularly, rather than relying on assumptions or past success with fish. Avoid mixing shrimp species with significantly different water requirements in the same aquarium. If you use RO water, remineralize consistently to target the correct parameters for the species instead of adjusting values day to day. And whenever changes are needed, make them slowly. Sudden corrections are often far more harmful than slightly imperfect but stable conditions. Temperature and oxygen levels play a major role in shrimp health, and problems in this area often go unnoticed until losses occur. Shrimp are cold-blooded animals, which means their metabolism is directly controlled by water temperature. As temperatures rise, shrimp become more active, their metabolism speeds up, and their demand for oxygen increases. While warmer water can boost growth and breeding in the short term, it also increases stress, shortens lifespan, and raises the risk of molting problems and disease. This is where issues often begin. Warm water naturally holds less dissolved oxygen. As oxygen availability drops, shrimp may become lethargic, gather near the surface, or climb plants and hardscape in search of better gas exchange. In severe cases, low oxygen levels can lead to rapid deaths, often overnight. Oxygen-related problems are especially common in heavily planted aquariums. During the day, plants produce oxygen through photosynthesis. At night, however, plants and beneficial bacteria consume oxygen instead. In tanks with dense vegetation, high bioloads, or elevated temperatures, oxygen levels can drop significantly after lights out, stressing shrimp when they're least able to cope. CO2 injection adds another layer of risk. While moderate, stable CO2 levels are generally tolerated, excessive or unstable CO2 reduces oxygen availability and interferes with normal gas exchange. Rapid CO2 fluctuations can also cause sudden pH shifts, which sensitive shrimp, particularly Caridina, do not tolerate well. What makes these issues hard to identify is that tanks often look healthy during the day. Losses frequently occur overnight, during heat waves, or after changes to lighting or CO2 schedules, making the true cause difficult to pinpoint. To reduce risk, keep water temperatures within the preferred range for your shrimp species and avoid prolonged exposure to high heat, especially above 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 26 degrees Celsius. Use fans, chillers, or room cooling during warmer months rather than relying solely on heaters. Ensure good surface agitation to promote gas exchange, particularly in warm or heavily planted tanks. Provide supplemental aeration, such as an air stone or sponge filter, to maintain stable oxygen levels around the clock. If you use CO2, keep levels conservative, monitor them carefully, and avoid large day-to-day adjustments. Turning CO2 off at night can further reduce stress and help maintain safer oxygen levels. Hidden pests and predators are an often overlooked reason shrimp die, especially when losses seem sudden or when baby shrimp disappear first. Many of these organisms enter aquariums unintentionally on plants, decor, or substrate. In small numbers, they may go unnoticed. Under the right conditions, however, they can multiply and begin causing real problems. Planaria are flatworms that thrive in tanks with excess food and organic waste. Small populations may not cause obvious issues, but larger outbreaks can prey on baby shrimp, attack eggs, steal food, irritate adults, and sometimes kill weakened or freshly molted shrimp. Their presence often points to overfeeding or declining tank hygiene. Hydra are tiny tentacled predators that attach to glass, plants, or decor. They capture microscopic prey using stinging cells and are especially dangerous to baby shrimp. Hydra often appear in tanks with frequent powdered feeding or excess nutrients and can quietly reduce shrimplet survival without being noticed. More aggressive predators can also hitchhike into aquariums. Dragonfly and damselfly nymphs are highly efficient aquatic hunters that hide in substrate and plants. They're capable of killing shrimp, small fish, and even fry. These predators are most commonly introduced through outdoor collected plants, pond-grown commercial plants, or untreated live plants. Other hitchhikers, such as leeches or predatory worms, can also harm shrimp, particularly in tanks that receive unquarantined plants or decor from unknown sources. This is why pest-related losses are so often misdiagnosed. Shrimp may disappear without a trace. Adults may seem unaffected while baby shrimp vanish, or colony numbers slowly decline over time. Because water tests often look normal, these losses are frequently blamed on water quality when the real cause is hidden predation. To reduce the risk, quarantine new plants for 1 to 2 weeks whenever possible before adding them to your aquarium. Rinse and inspect plants carefully, and consider using shrimp-safe dips such as diluted hydrogen peroxide to reduce hitchhikers. Avoid collecting plants, substrate, or decor from outdoor sources unless you're experienced and able to properly treat them. Reduce overfeeding, as excess food fuels pest populations and allows organisms like planaria and hydra to thrive. If pests are detected, address the underlying cause first. Use shrimp-safe treatments such as no planaria for planaria and hydra, and rely on manual removal for predators like dragonfly or damselfly nymphs rather than harsh chemicals. Some keepers consider adding fish to control pests, but this approach comes with trade-offs. While certain fish may reduce pest populations, many will also prey on baby shrimp or stress adults, so caution is needed. Incompatible tank mates are a common reason shrimp die or slowly disappear, even in otherwise healthy aquariums. Many fish see shrimp as food, not as companions. Even species labeled as peaceful will often eat baby shrimp and opportunistically hunt adults, especially after molting, when shrimp are soft and vulnerable. Some fish may not kill shrimp outright, but instead harass them constantly, creating chronic stress that leads to poor feeding, failed molts, and shortened lifespans. This problem is easy to miss. Adult shrimp may survive while baby shrimp vanish. The tank may appear stable, water parameters may test fine, and shrimp may even breed, yet the population never grows. In many cases, baby shrimp are eaten shortly after hatching, long before the keeper ever sees them. Fast-moving fish can also be an issue. Even small or peaceful species may stress shrimp simply through constant motion. Shrimp rely on calm environments to graze and molt safely, and persistent activity can keep them hidden, reduce feeding opportunities, and weaken them over time. Molting periods are especially dangerous in community tanks. A shrimp that would normally survive a molt in a species-only setup may be attacked or killed when tank mates are present, even if those fish usually ignore adult shrimp. Because of this, shrimp-only tanks consistently produce the best survival and breeding results. While some tank mates can coexist with shrimp under the right conditions, compatibility is never guaranteed. To reduce losses, keep shrimp in species-only tanks whenever possible, especially if breeding or long-term colony health is the goal. If tank mates are something you want, choose ones with well-established shrimp-safe reputations, such as autosinkless catfish and snails, and provide dense cover using moss, plants, leaf litter, and hardscape. Avoid fish large enough to fit shrimp in their mouths or known to be opportunistic predators. Understand that even so-called shrimp-safe fish may still eat baby shrimp, and plan expectations accordingly. If shrimp continue to disappear or losses persist, consider relocating either the shrimp or the tank mates to a different aquarium. Sometimes, shrimp and fish simply aren't compatible in a specific setup, even if a similar combination works elsewhere. Not every shrimp death is caused by a mistake. Disease, genetics, and age all play a role even in well-maintained aquariums. Shrimp can be affected by parasites, bacterial infections, and fungal issues. Some diseases develop slowly and only become obvious once shrimp are already weakened. Common warning signs include lethargy, loss of appetite, abnormal swimming, white or fuzzy growths, or visible parasites to the body. Stress is a major factor here. Unstable water parameters, poor water quality, overcrowding, or frequent disturbances weaken shrimp over time and make them far more susceptible to illness. Healthy, stable tanks don't eliminate disease entirely, but they dramatically reduce how often it becomes a problem. Genetics can also influence survival. Some selectively bred shrimp lines, especially those bred heavily for intense color, may be less hardy due to limited genetic diversity. These shrimp can be more sensitive to parameter swings, stress, or minor issues that hardier lines would tolerate. In these cases, losses may occur even when conditions appear acceptable. Natural mortality is another factor that's often overlooked. Most dwarf shrimp, such as Neocaridina shrimp, typically live around 1 to 2 years. As shrimp age, they become more prone to failed molts, illness, and sudden death. In established colonies, occasional losses may simply reflect older shrimp reaching the end of their natural lifespan rather than a problem with the tank. This distinction matters. When water parameters are stable, maintenance is consistent, and deaths are isolated rather than widespread, age or genetics may be the underlying cause, not something going wrong in the aquarium. To support long-term health and reduce losses, focus on excellent water quality and overall stability. Healthy shrimp are far more resilient than stressed ones. Quarantine new shrimp when possible to observe for signs of disease before adding them to an established tank. Avoid copper-based medications and always use shrimp-safe treatments if intervention is needed. Source shrimp from reputable breeders whenever possible to promote stronger genetics over time. And most importantly, watch for patterns, not single losses. One death in a mature colony is often normal. Repeated or rapid losses usually point back to one of the earlier issues I've covered. If there's one key takeaway from this video, it's this: shrimp don't usually die for no reason. In most cases, losses come from slow, invisible pressures like unstable parameters, gradual buildup, stress, or small issues stacking up over time. Once you understand that, shrimp keeping becomes far less frustrating and far more predictable. The goal isn't perfection. It's stability, consistency, and patience. Focus on steady water parameters, gentle maintenance, appropriate tank mates, proper feeding, and creating an environment that stays calm and predictable. When those fundamentals are in place, shrimp are far more resilient than they're often given credit for. And remember, not every loss means something is wrong. Occasional deaths happen, especially in mature colonies. What matters is watching for patterns, not panicking over a single shrimp, and making thoughtful adjustments instead of chasing quick fixes. If you found this video helpful, let me know in the comments which section helped you the most, or what you've struggled with in your own aquariums. I'd love to hear from you. If you're planning to build your own aquarium and want a step-by-step guide to choosing equipment, hardscape, softscape, cycling the tank properly, and setting things up for long-term stability, check out this video next. And if you'd like to try something new for your shrimp, check the description or pinned comment below for a link to my premium shrimp food collection. Skittle Squad members receive even larger discounts no matter which tier they join. I'm Andy, thanks for watching, and I hope I made shrimp keeping a little easier for you. I'll catch you in the next one.